going to look at solving inequations. That's the process of finding the value of an unknown by rearranging, but because it's an inequation, the answer is a range of values, not an exact value. The process we use is the same as solving linear equations as linear inequations. We go one step at a time, making it a term simpler. The inequality remains pointing the same way throughout, except we multiply through by a negative, divide through by a negative, or reverse the sides. We only swap if we're multiplying or dividing through by a negative, not if the answer is negative. If we do this process without ever creating a negative unknown, then we don't need to swap the sign at any point, and we can do it exactly like solving an equation. That reduces our chance of error. What each stage means isn't important. We worry about that at the end. So we lay it out like an equation down the page, separate steps, and the inequality sign stays pointing the same way in the middle because I have not divided through by a negative, only by plus 16. Despite the fact that my answer is negative, my sign stays the same because I haven't multiplied or divided through by a negative. Here's one that's fairly simple. We have two unknowns, two numbers. We would group the unknowns on one side. Now I'm going to move the 5 to the right hand side so that the unknown resulting, 3x, is positive. Then I have to move the number to the other side. We have unknowns and numbers separated, divide through, and I have x is bigger than minus 1. Note that there's no need to have the x on the left hand side, so on the right hand side is just fine. Another example, it's got brackets, so we multiply them out. I notice that the 6x is smaller than the 8x, so I'm going to get rid of that to that side. Then I have to move the 8 back to get the numbers on the other side. Divide through by a 2, and x is greater than or equal to 8.5. Sometimes we can't avoid a negative unknown. For in this case, we start out with only one unknown and it's negative. My suggestion is, rather than trying to divide through, we just get rid of it from that side by adding the opposite. So we add 5x to both sides. Now we have the equation with a positive unknown, and we can separate numbers from unknowns, divide through by a 5, and we get x is less than minus 1.2. Inequations of course have meanings, we wouldn't bother otherwise. The larger side of the sign indicates the bigger number. So x here is more than 14. It could be 15, but nothing says it has to be a whole number. It could be 14.2. Any number 14 or more. I can write it the other way round, but the bigger side of the sign is still facing the x, so x is still the bigger number. It's still more than 14. These are two ways of saying the same thing. By the equal sign, then this number is more than 14 or is equal to 14. It's 14 or more, or the other way around, it's less than or equal to 14. If I have it between two numbers, then the x is both bigger than the 10 and smaller than the 14. So it's a number between 10 and 14, but not equal to them, because if it was equal to them as well, I would write it this way. So this is a number more or equal to 10, and also less or equal to 14. It's a number from 10 to 14. So, key concept, if we multiply or divide through by a negative, we have to reverse the direction of the inequality sign. But if we don't ever get to having a negative unknown, then we don't ever have to do that, and the process is the same as solving an equation. Don't worry about the meaning at each stage. The resulting answer is a range which has meaning, but you can worry about that right at the end.